Good afternoon and welcome to Chicago Humanities Spring Festival. I'm Philip Bahar, the Executive Director of Chicago Humanities, and it's my pleasure welcoming you to this program tonight with John Maeda. This is kind of the tail end of our Spring Festival. We still have some events through June, including some really compelling conversations and performances with musicians and storytellers like Andrew Bird and Reggie Watts, Questlove and Brad Meldau. We still have some fantastic programs on democracy and the presidency with Pulitzer Prize winning journalists and authors John Meacham and Doris Kearns Goodwin. So hopefully you can come out to some of the rest of our festival as well after today's program. This is our first full day of programming on Illinois Tech's campus, and I can think of no better place to have a conversation about the future of technology and AI than at this great institution that was so central to kind of the new Bauhaus and the founding of innovation and technology here in Chicago and much more broadly. Before we begin, I want to mention our partners. Our presenting partners are Builders Vision, Friedman Properties, and the Robert R. McCormick Foundation, and our spring season sponsors, the Richard H. Driehaus Foundation and Nielsen IQ, who also underwrote a whole series of programs on artificial intelligence throughout this year, thinking about AI through the lens of humans and the humanities. And I want to thank all of you who are members and donors. You really do help bring these programs to life all across the neighborhoods of Chicago. So if you're not a member and you love what we do, please consider joining us. Philanthropic support covers about 60% of our annual budget. So a few words about our speakers. John Maeda is the VP of Artificial Intelligence and Design at Microsoft. Such a privilege to have him here at this moment in time. He's a celebrated technologist. He previously held leadership positions at Publicis, Sapient, Automatic, and was a tenured research professor at the MIT Media Lab, one of the great centers of innovation here in America, known for its cutting-edge multidisciplinary approach to design. And he has led pioneering work in computational design, coding for artists, and human-centered AI. Esquire named him one of the 75 most influential people in the world, and across his lifetime, he's championed the vital role of artists and designers in making a better world. His books, like How to Speak Machine, he's considered how to leverage AI's potential while keeping human values centered. Today, he's joined by Dean Anijo Mathew, here from Illinois Tech, at the Institute of Design, who is focused on entrepreneurship and urban technology. His research evaluates new models of innovation enabled by technology and media convergence, and he works with global organizations to adapt and implement change in a rapidly changing environment. We're going to start the presentation tonight with a few comments from John, and then Dean Mathew will be joining him. So thank you so much for joining.
Hello, everybody. There is a clicker somewhere. Here it is. Wow, it's so nice outside. It's so good outside, and you came here, but you get that like window seat. It's expensive in the airplane. Okay, all right. Let's see here. How are y'all doing here? Doing good. Look at the faces here. Everyone's kind of. That's good. Okay. You always have your phone in case I get boring. So, all right, good. Right. Well, I'm very honored to be here. Specifically because I've had the opportunity to sit with Dean Anijo over there. It's like amazing. Who knows Dean? Who knows the Dean Anijo? There we go. Oh, fans here, right? Little applause, please, for a moment. It's very interesting carbon life form. Very brimming with stuff. I've learned so much. I feel like I won the lottery in terms of being retuned for this design, business, social activism, Chicago flavor that really I haven't been able to taste before, so I'm pretty excited. I live in Seattle, Washington, and anyone know Seattle? Seattle, very rainy. Yep, and I moved there because my parents are in their late 80s. And any caregivers out there? Caregivers? Not sure. Yeah, hard. Ooh, caregivers hard. So I had to move out there because there was a situation. Anyone have siblings you can't trust? Situation. So, you know what I'm talking about. So I had to find a job, and they live in Redmond, right near Microsoft. So I had to find a job, preferably at Microsoft. And it was October of 2022, and I joined Microsoft because the person there who was saying, oh yeah, maybe we have a job here for you. I was playing with OpenAI beta, and he said, oh, if you come here, I might show you something. I said, oh, what is that thing? I don't know what it is. So it was October 2022, and I went in to do AI stuff, and all my friends were making fun of me. Like, oh, John, oh, that's really embarrassing. You're working on AI at Microsoft. And then in November of 2022, this ChatGPT thing came out. And suddenly all my friends were like, oh, John, oh, good idea. You know, you never know your friends, right? They kind of flip or whatever. So anyways, but I didn't know that was going to happen either. So anyways, I have been lucky to be really at the center of a lot of learning because I worked on AI in the 1980s, right? I was at the MIT AI lab, and it was right near the end of the AI kind of boom, the so-called AI nuclear winter. All that is saying, like, it's a very dramatic way to say nobody wanted to put money into AI. That AI could do something called expert systems. You know, it's like, if this, then this, if this, then this, and just pile up gazillions of if and thens. That AI didn't work very well, it turned out. A lot of people invested in it, didn't do that amazingly, so eventually it dried up. But this new kind of AI is very different. This new kind of AI, has anyone used this kind of stuff recently, touched this kind of thing? It's different. And I want to go over what I've learned about it because it may help you navigate what is happening right now. So I use this phrase to frame a report I give every year called the South by Southwest Design and Tech Report. It's kind of a double, design against AI, you know, designers against AI. Or is it, am I designing against AI trying to compete? It's got a duality to it. It's also got the word little letters AI in there. I love little sort of word puzzles like that. And I have different versions of this, but I want to have the conversation with Anijo, which I think is exciting. So I'm going to do roughly 13 minutes of this. Okay, here we go. Rapid. Okay, here we go. It's as if, you know how like younger people have realized you should go up to the upper right and set 1.5x. I don't have to talk at regular speed. So, all right. Okay, so first off, someone, my colleague said to me, this new kind of AI behaves unpredictably. That is not true. It is predictable in how it works. Because it turns out we humans, remember the Donald Rumsfeld matrix, unknown unknowns? Well, there's a unknown unknowns, known unknowns, unknown knowns. Those three quadrants we humans don't do very well with, right? Ambiguity, lack of information. Oh, humans, no good. Where do we do well? We do well in the known knowns. What else does well there? Large language model AI likes known knowns. So it's predictably, it'll fail in these other three quadrants the same way we humans do. And I like how there's a boom now where people are saying, I'm going to get AI to take my prompt and make an entire website from it. Ooh. And on the other hand, you have a customer who says, this website's too complex. AI, make it into one button. Do you see this weird thing? We overhydrate the idea, and then we desiccate it. Does that make sense? No, a little questionable. Okay, conversational design. Chat, not new. this book by Erica Hall. She's coming out with a second edition, very timely. Erica points out that language is the oldest interface. You know, if you've ever taken care of a baby, they want something. They want milk. What are they using? They're using a voice UI. Milk, right? So it's the oldest interface to get something done. And then this is a book in 1967 by my former boss, Nicholas Negroponte. It says here in purple, you could build a predictive model of your conversational performance. Such a machine could then reinforce the dialogue by using a predictive model. 1967, right? That's totally spot on. But most importantly, this is a book by my AI professor. In the 80s, I took an AI class, and I'm sure some of you know that when you're younger, you're kind of stupid. So I had AI, and then I had the instructor that, I like the other cool one, right? And there's this other guy, his name was Joseph Weizenbaum, and I don't know, but I skipped class too, so very bad student. Years later, I realized he's super famous because he invented the first chatbot. In 1966, he invented a chatbot called Eliza, which emulated what's called a Rosarian psychotherapist. It's very simple logic, 1966 era software. It did two things. First thing is, it was very good at saying back to you what you said. Like, I had a bad day. Oh, you had a bad day. You're like, oh my gosh, you hear me, right? The second thing it would do, it would look for key words like mother, girlfriend, boyfriend, whatever. So it's like blah, 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 mother. Oh, tell me about your mom. So just those two rules enabled this program to eerily feel like a human being to another human being, 1966. He was very concerned about this. And in this book, which is available on the internet in PDF, if you read it, the first entry says, what I had not realized is that extremely short exposures to a relatively simple computer program could induce powerful delusional thinking in quite normal people. 1966, he was in the New York Times warning people about AI because he, as a youth, fled Nazi Germany. And scientists of that era were very concerned about things that can be used to weaponize bad things. So he didn't go out and Zuckerberg it. He spent all his time in the humanities to tell people. He didn't go computer science. He went total liberal arts. And so a very unique person. And actually, as we were talking over there, me and Peter and Anijo, I realized I want to give you a demonstration. Do you see eyes? Do you see eyes on this thing? Eyes? Do you see eyes? Do you see eyes? Hi, how are you? You're looking at me? Looking over here. That's weird, right? It's because we're wired to go to where the voice or character seems like it's coming from. So when we have something talking at us and gets us and engages a conversation, we enter a delusion that there's a human being on the other side. And maybe you can tell your friend, now this is all math. I say, no, you got it all wrong. There's a soul behind that. That is the fundamental problem when you use this kind of AI for chat. You will fall into this delusion. So a lot of what I do every day is I don't chat to it, not to fall into the delusion. And when you cross that barrier, you discover that it's a different way to write software. And it's a different way to write software, and I mentioned a lot about something called function calling. Function calling is a different way to write software that anyone who's done function calling, I can talk to an entire room of engineers, maybe 1% have done it. But it's going to change how we write software. And software is there to sort of serve us and support us. That's what I find very interesting and also exciting. Okay, so I want to get to the part of my mother. 1 second. My mother, okay. because I want to get together. Oh, no, so this is like at 4x right now. Okay, there we go. 4x, 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 4x. That 4x, 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 4x. Oh, slowing down. There we go. By the way, I have a show online called The Cozy AI Kitchen, Mr. Maeda's Cozy AI Kitchen, where I cook AI recipes. And so you can check that out. It's free. So if you're afraid of this stuff, you'll be less afraid if you start cooking with it, understand the math, sort of actually practice with it. And I did it because it's a side hobby, not even a hustle. I have friends on campus who have this green screen, and they were like, hey, John, there's extra hours. And so I started like, oh, let me go over and do that. So we started making this thing. It's kind of like Electric Company, Fred Rogers, and AI. And it wasn't avowed by any marketing sort of people. We push it out there, and it's got a little audience. So if you want to learn AI, check it out. I've also released a risk management course with AI where I'm building things out of clay. That just released this week. It's sort of a cozy AI craft corner. Okay, now, I want to note that my mother, who does tech support for their parents that are not computer educated? Yes. Some of them are computer educated, so they're okay. Some of them are like, whoa, what is this stuff? So like, my mother loves her phone. She was a legal secretary, so she can type like you wouldn't know it. She's like, whoa, you're 88, you can type faster than me. Anyways, her iMessage does autocorrect, and it really bugged her. It was like, oh, this iMessage autocorrect is terrible. But recently, she reversed her decree. So if you don't mind hitting play, you'll see my mother's decree. Thank you. Oh, can't hear. Ooh, problem. Oh, audio problem. See that? I will tell you what she said. No, it's not as good. Anyways, we're going to keep going. Okay, thank you very much. I'm going to keep moving. But basically what she's saying is that she asked to turn it on again because she types things like Komalanga. And she types things she doesn't want to type. And so she wants it back, and in the end she says, I like AI. It's a good one. Okay, going quick, fast, and. This is all available in like 1x, if you like. Let's step in there. This is all free information I create every year. Then slowing down. Here we go. Oh, no, whoa. Oh my gosh, I over like. Okay, there we go. Liberal arts. Okay. Here we go. Okay. So this is something from an expert at Stanford that I redrew that I like a lot. It's Bryn, with a super long last name. This is yellow. It's the tasks that only humans can do. And then there are human tasks that AI could automate, stuff you don't want to do. And then there's this whole sea of tasks that humans can do only with the help of AI. It's like a kind of like a, I don't know, like a scuba diver suit or something. You can go to places you didn't think you'd go. I like this framing, and with that, I bring up the dean. And I'd like to officially give the dean his own AI chef apron. All right.
That's what I'm wearing to work tomorrow. Yeah. So thanks for coming, everybody. It's a great pleasure to be here. You know, when we came in, they had chairs on the table, on the stage. And it looked very good. But I saw John perform at ID, and I realized that putting chairs in front of John is a bad idea. John does really well when he's standing. So I asked him to stand so we could talk through this.
I can see people, too.
And see people, too, yes.
Yeah, but over here, I can't see you. I see you back there, yeah.
So my name is Anijo Mathew. I'm the Dean of the Institute of Design. For those of you who don't know the Institute of Design, we are an 87-year-old design school. We're based at Illinois Tech. And we were pioneers of systems design and human-centered design, which went on to become popularly known as design thinking. So John, you talk about 3 types of design. This goes back to your 2017 report, right? Can you just do a quick primer on this? Because I want to talk a little bit more about it.
So when I landed in Silicon Valley in 2013, I was working in venture capital. And the reason why is because design was creating or inflecting companies, and people didn't understand it. And there were these 2 guys who were RISD grads. One was named Joe Gebbia, and the other Brian Chesky. And I visited them, like maybe in the 2nd year I was president. I was in San Francisco. I said, hey, do we have any entrepreneurs? And then, yeah, we got these 2 guys, and let's go see them. Went to see them. They're in this apartment with like 6 people around a table. They had this ridiculous idea. They were going to enable people to rent out their bedroom or sofa and give them an air bed, and they'd serve breakfast. Air, bed, and breakfast. Airbnb. And I thought, what a dumb idea. And then every year it got bigger and bigger and bigger. So anyways, the investors wanted to understand this thing. And I saw this problem. I saw a problem where people were like, oh my gosh, Joe Gebbia, Brian Chesky, design, the game changer. And so they were all hiring designers, but designers who had no experience in technology. And it wasn't working out very well for them. So I tried to lay out 3 kinds of design. One kind of design is classical design. The design that we all know and love, the built environment. It's like, oh my gosh, design, amazing. Then there's design thinking. Design thinking invented at IIT and invented at ID and invented at Summit at Stanford. Everyone took the claim, but it was here first, just a bunch of. And design thinking, though, is not design, design, whatever. And classical designers generally dislike design thinking, but I always tell them the design thinker makes a 6-figure salary. Then lastly, there's a kind of design that involves in the tech world that I called computational design. Computational design being anything involving the Moore's law effect. I discovered that everyone I told this to, nobody understood and made a funny face when I said the word computation. So I wrote the book, How to Speak Machine, to try to sort of change that. I failed. There we go.
So keep that in mind, the 3 types of design. And for those of you who have known John, he's been writing about this since 2017, I think, right? Now I want you to do another explanation for us. How many of you know what function calling is? Okay, there are only a few people. Can you explain to us in very human terms what function calling is?
Yeah. So the way we write computer software is who's used the basic language? Basic maybe, or like Logo, or some of you were forced to learn these things by the school education system, but it's like, oh my gosh, I'm going to make the computer do this, and then it's going to do this, and it's going to do this, and it might keep doing it, and then it might do some more and do it, and it might get done, and that was a computer program, right? A human being wrote that computer program. They controlled the flow of logic. Okay, they're setting variables, they're calling functions. This whole thing is laid out. Okay, function calling is using large language models to do all the function calling. Meaning, you say, like for instance, like the example I gave was, you have a function that can create a poster. You have a function that can email anybody. You have a function that can set up a shelf, set up a table somewhere. Basically, 3 functions that do stuff. And if I had wrote a computer program to sequence how to get ready for this event, I would write it out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, go do it. Function calling means instructing the large language model to create the situation for a successful setting of a show like this. And what it'll do is it's able to describe what needs to get done and determine what kind of tools it needs. So you give it those 3 tools, like any person you met, it would look at the 3 tools to see what it to do. and you tell it what to do, it determines the right order of things to do and call the functions without writing any computer program. That's what function calling is. So it's a revolution in what software you can write. I will tell you that just a couple weeks ago, I spent 3 hours, for this risk management AI course, I show an example of this. I had to shoot it at 11 a.m. I woke up at 7 a.m. I wrote a program that in 3 hours that should have taken me probably 3 weeks. And that was all done using function calling. That's an example.
So let's take this idea of function calling, right? And imagine a future world where AI is able to call functions for anything. So John described, we have an exhibition at ID, which celebrates our 85th year, that has functions that are required to be done. We needed to make tables, we needed to buy the plexiglass, we needed to print posters, we needed to put all these things together, we needed to send out marketing emails, we needed to send out branding emails, all of this, right? Now, if you had AI that could actually call the functions, its large language models has all of these informations in the form of manuals. So it could go in and read, how would Marty Thaler have designed those tables? And you could have, hypothetically, a robot making the table, right? You could go in and say, how would Mitch Gordon have created the branding messaging? And it could do the function for you, right? And in none of this is the AI actually interacting with a human being.
And that's why there's this interesting acronym, HIL. It stands for human in the loop. A human in the loop, it happens to us all the time. How many of us have a dialogue box pop up in their face that says yes, no, cancel? I think all of us, yes, no, cancel. That's human in the loop. Do you really want to do this? The question is, how much human in the loop do you want? So the thing about these models is you can dial them so there's lots of human in the loop, micromanaging, or less human in the loop. If they're successful, good. It's like a, there's going to be a process of, as developers learn this, to understand which patterns work better, which patterns work worse. But it's very important to remember that, remember the known-known quadrant? If you leave the known-known quadrant, there's always going to be errors. So engineers will have to really consider this. They're called guardrails.
So going back to your first comment about the 3 types of designers or design, what do you think is the evolution of design as computers get more and more better and better at function calling?
Oh, great question. Like how many of you who do design, not just for making images, but it's been useful for scenario planning? Have you tried that yet? Yeah, so like, you know, and you know that it's not great sometimes, and sometimes it's good. Like a friend you might call, right? Are they always good? And if anything, it helps you get the job done. So I believe that, you know this notion of the hallowed crit?
No.
No, yeah, there's something called a crit. You ever know what a crit is? You know, critique, you know?
Oh, you mean like a crit at a
Yeah,
jury?
like a critic. Like, I'm going to have a critic come, and the critic's going to show up, and doesn't really know everything. So, but you're like, okay, go ahead, ChatGPT me. And they're there, okay? What's different is that you may be able to get much more structured critique. You may be able to source a knowledge base that you're really interested in. Like, I think there's a IDEO person, there's IDEO's Red Book and all this sort of like IDEO knowledge. You could be critiqued in the manner of an IDEO expert in a certain category. I think that's kind of new, the ability to kind of have a mirror that you've chosen versus a random mirror that bounces back information that is sometimes random.
So that's really interesting that you're now predicting in some sense, or speculating in some sense, that the user experience of computational design is also going to change, right? So now I want you to go back to ELIZA. How many of you have seen ELIZA? So you should check it out. It's a really cool chat interface where you ask it the question, like, and Eliza will ask, how are you doing today? Well, I'm feeling miserable. Oh, you're feeling miserable. And it's just a text-based chat interface. Just day before yesterday, OpenAI released ChatGPT 4.0. So you saw the Kurzweil curve in work. Can you first describe the Kurzweil curve? And second, talk a little bit about how will designers play a role in this future where speedcraft becomes much more important than handcraft?
Yeah. Well, I spent 6 years writing How to Speak Machine. It's coming out in paperback. Just for instance, my MIT Press, I defected and made this book, and MIT Press was always upset at me, so they want to bring it back. So there'll be like I'm going to redesign the cover, because the cover was scary. I didn't choose that. But anyways, I talk about Kurzweil's, the Kurzweil curve. I actually redrew it. It's basically the accelerating power of computing. And in 2011, Kurzweil was on Time magazine's cover. He's the person who invented the first machine to read for the blind. By the way, he's an amazing scientist. But he predicted in 2011 that computing power would be equivalent to an insect in 2013, a rodent in 2017, a human in 2023, and all the humans on Earth in like 2034 or something like that. And it was interesting that, sure enough, the insect happened and the rodent happened. And you can argue on the intelligence side of a human being in 2023. And I think that he's living in Moore's Law time. Do you all? So like, I really didn't understand Moore's Law, even though I had heard it so much, until I heard this old riddle. It goes like this. So it's a British riddle. And it's like, there's this pond with lily pads on it. There's a biologist who lives in the side of the pond. The biologist removes all the lily pads and plants a certain species of lily pads that doubles overnight. So day 1, it's 1. Day 2, it's 2. Day 3, it's 4. Day 4, it's 8. So the riddle goes, so on day 30th, the pond is completely filled. On what day was it half full? So when I was asked this question, I thought, well, half of 30, 50, you know this, you're smarter than me. Day 29. Day 29? How's it possible? Because it doubled. So what's occurring with all this technology is doubling, which in early innings you don't notice. But in later innings, it gets incredibly large. That's what's occurring.
So so in your report, you talk a little bit about handcraft versus speedcraft.
Yeah.
And this also has something to do here, right? Like in the sense that you made the argument that we have to become more critical and intentional about the things we create while we operate at the speed that emerging technology is moving.
Yeah. Yeah.
So talk a little bit about that.
Well, given what I've learned about ID in an intense masterclass from our dean, I think that I wish I came here when I wrote that book, actually. I was pretty ignorant, actually, when I consider it. So I'm like, awfully ignorant, actually. I had a concern that computing was moving this quickly, and it was outpacing culture. Yet in 2024, is that this year? 2024? I feel that these large language models are still slow. And so there's an opportunity for culture to do its best to catch up. And I encourage people to understand it because it is highly understandable. There's just two kinds of models. One is a model that can complete the sentence. It's called the completion model. There's another model that no one talks about. It's called an embedding model. It measures similarity. It can find similar words, similar sentences. It can compare a sentence to a paragraph. It can reduce that comparison to a number. Dog to fog versus dog to cat. We humans can say, 0 to 1, 0.5, whatever. A computer could never do that. A computer can now do that, approximations. Why does chat sound so real now? It isn't real when you first visit it. It knows nothing about you. When you start talking to it, like Eliza, it has context. When the context grows, the similarity model is used to find similar things in what you said. And it brings it into the completion engine that said, when it said like, how you doing? I'm pretty good. So where are you from? I'm from Seattle. What's your favorite food? I love tacos. Blah, blah, blah. And it's like, so what's for dinner tonight? So you compare what's for dinner tonight to everything you said. It pulls out, they said, I like tacos. So the completion is just, they said, I like tacos. What's for dinner tonight? Tacos. Do you see?
So, John, can you spend a little bit more time on this diagram? I love this diagram in John's report. And for those of you can look at this diagram and interpret it, basically it argues that there are a lot of things that humans can do because we are human beings, right? And there's a small subsection of that AI can do because it's AI, and there's the task-based interpretation of what humans can do. But then we step into this large C, and you have a sequence here, right? Like you argue, if I'm assuming correctly, that the task-based things come first, right? And then we figure out the humans and how humans and AI can work together. Is that correct?
Well, when I look at this now, and this is by Eric Briddenjofsen, that guy at Stanford. He was at MIT, he's a genius, so just check out his stuff. The diagram didn't look too good, so I redrew it. Made it kind of cooler looking. Lost my train of thought. What was the question?
So can you explain this first, the sequencing, and then secondly, what are some of the ideas what are some of the things that are task-based that AI is automating right now?
Yeah.
And when we get into this large C, what are some of the things that you see getting?
I remember what I was going to say. Thank you.
Yes.
When I saw this, everyone never know, maybe some from my generation. There was this group called Shakespearean Sisters. Okay, thank you. Shakespearean Sisters. I had to look this up, but they had this song that was a hit. That was a beautiful song that the lyrics have this moment where they say, la la la, life is a strange thing. Just when you think you know how to use it, it's gone. And these are young people saying this, but it's sort of like really stuck with me for some reason. So I think it gave me a hint, because I also got a lesson from someone else, a man named Mitz Kataoka, in my 40s, my early 40s. Mitz was a very strange person, but he was an interesting person. But I met him in my 20s. He was the professor of someone named Igarashi Takanobu, who was the Tama Art president.
Right.
Anyway, so when Igarashi introduced me to Mitz, he was 60, I was like 25. I was living in Tokyo. Mitz would call me in the middle of the night. This is back when there was no cell phones. So you call someone's house in the middle of the night, awkward. But he was very different, And then Mitz, he would call me, wants to talk to me, okay, this, whatever. Anyways, I went to a Chinese restaurant in LA. Those strip malls have amazing restaurants sometimes. You know what I'm talking about? And we were having dinner, and he said, you know why I'm like this, John? And I said, why? And he said, well, I used to be like you. I was in my 20s, I was up and coming, good things were happening for me, I was married, my wife was in medical school, we bought a house, we had our whole life planned out. And then one day she came home and didn't feel right. So she's a medical student, got in the first in line to get seen by the doctor. Doctor said she was fine. And then the second one said she was fine, but because she's a medical student, she had extra stuff, and she found out she had terminal cancer. And she was pregnant. And he said that after she gave birth, a month later, she died. And he said from that moment forward, he never counted on tomorrow coming. So that's why he was unusual. Okay, anyways, I'm 40-something, and I get the RISD presidency, and then Mitz calls me up. I said, whoa, John, I think that job's a little early for you. You're like 50-something. Like, what's going on? He says, I don't know. He says, I don't know. He says, there's this Obama era, 2008. He says, yes, we can. So I said, I could do it maybe. And so then he said, well, John, don't forget, life is lived in 4 quarters. First quarter, 0 to 25. Second quarter, 25 to 50 years. Third quarter, 50 to 75. And fourth quarter, 75 to 100. He said, don't forget, John, most people don't make it to the fourth quarter. And I was like, whoa, I thought I had 4 quarters. This was kind of like poof. And he said, you finished your first quarter. And that was also poof. And I was ending my second quarter. And he said, in the third quarter, your body starts to fall apart. So make the most of your second quarter. So I'm in my third quarter now, and it is falling apart. And so I am excited by using this technology to really, that Shakespearean sister, I kind of know, and so I'm gonna. That's what excites me.
So you told me that one of the things that you're passionate about is speeding things up, right? Because you're, in some sense, impatient. And you're saying that if I can do things faster.
I can do it, yeah. I want to do it before I'm gone. So I like that I'm getting, it's almost as if I feel like I'm getting extra time. I don't know if I deserve it, but I want to try to use that time differently. So anything I can automate, I'm automating. It's great because it's forcing me to think about how I think. Another thing, again, some of you are healthier than me, so if you're a third quarter or fourth quarter, no shade. But I know in third quarter, I got like, whoa, this thing doesn't spin up as fast as it did before, just at least me. So by using large language models, I'm more aware of processes done in my brain, but in that architecture that I can use to make myself think better, or maybe think the way I could think before.
Great. I have one more question, but before I get to that question, I think it's important to reach out to you and see if you have questions for John.
So what are examples of things that you're automating? Anything you can automate, you can.
Yeah. One thing I'm automating, I'm a little embarrassed, is how I use time. Time is the most valuable resource. You come to realize that when you really get older. When you're younger, you're like, oh my gosh, you waste so much time. It's amazing. When you're older, you're like, whoa, I'm gonna use my time differently. So I wrote software to analyze my calendar, and it helped me construct a better next week. Because I've given it information about things that are interesting to me, and it can help. Basically, it's a calculator, is how I see it. So it's able to help me calculate with time constructs and what's important to me. Another thing that has helped me is I gave the LLM everything I've written since 19 whatever. And it's interesting because I can basically find things I said before. And I was like, whoa, that's so wrong, I'm like, oh, I could use that now, So it's like injecting some thinking that I had before, so I find that very useful. Yeah.
Other questions?
Thanks. Hey, John, Justin McElder here.
Hey,
Thanks
Justin. Oh my gosh, how you doing?
It's good to see you again.
Oh my goodness.
That
Harvard degree. There you go.
He works at ID now.
Yeah.
Boy, you really are like Yankees here.
Anijo, it's good to see you on the weekend.
Yeah. I should say Yankees here, I think. But go ahead. Yeah.
One of the questions that always comes up to me about AI is the idea of the canon changing. So in architectures, there's like canonical buildings, buildings that are more important, quote unquote, than other buildings. Same thing holds true in literature and other fields as well. So as I think about the advent of AI and historically unjust copyright laws, I'm interested to know your thoughts on the future of copyright and perhaps the way it must evolve, might evolve, given the fact that people are interested in doing more creative things now with these tools that are somewhat limiting, given the fact that you can't access certain data sources without outdated copyright laws, I'll put it that way.
Just a question. A couple things. There are new, what's called, have you heard these like large language models? And like large language models. There's also what's called small language models. There's a model called Phi, and Phi came out, Phi 1, Phi 2, Phi 3. Phi 3 is called a textbook model, which means it's trained on things that the copyright is controlled and it's high quality information. And also it's open source. People can use it, change it, retune it. I believe that as we discover how to use these kinds of models, I think a lot more interesting things are going to come out of them for people who are primarily driven in the creative space. In the architecture space, however, is it okay if I'm a little jaded here? You're the optimist, or you're the Jedi. I left the Jedi, so. I do know that if you look at the history of creative people, those who succeeded have tended to come from privilege because they knew the person to help them get published, or they knew the person who could help them build a building. I think most of the Pritzker Prize winners, you can check them out, there's a lot of stuff there. So access to opportunities is built into every built structure that we have. I want to strongly say, unfortunately, and also want to say reality. And so I look at, I've been so inspired by you, Anijo. I mean, I didn't know why I felt that way. I'm always curious how to change things going forward. I'm always interested in that. And so I'm excited about more people asking, okay, so how do we make this different? Ideally, different better. Different worse? It can only happen if more people understand this stuff. If they are stuck in the delusion that there's a cup talking to them, and they tell all their friends, and their friends tell their friends, the people who can access it will not access it because it's bad. And if anything, has anyone been to the Exploratorium in San Francisco? Most people don't know that Exploratorium is probably the most important museum on the planet because it was founded by Frank Oppenheimer, who is the brother of the Oppenheimer movie, Oppenheimer. But he was also a nuclear physicist. And he, I think, was kicked out of University of Chicago. He was an elite academic. He was kicked out. It was the McCarthy era, communist scare era. So he wasn't allowed to teach in any of the elite universities. So he ended up somewhere in Nevada or like some really kind of out in the boonies, and he became a science teacher, high school science teacher. And he would make these apparatus things to teach kids science. And so a decade later, Caltech was noticing all these kids from this unknown school just killing it in science. And that's Frank Oppenheimer. So if you go to the museum, it is an eye-opening experience because Frank was attempting to get more people to understand science so they would be curious about it and creating it because he saw what can happen if you let science be something that others cannot participate in. Yeah.
Hey, Stephen Hunsaker here. I have so many questions for you, but I'm mostly curious what someone like an ID grad, where someone would fit within an organization that is helping to push AI forward, right? I'm kind of seeing two types of companies right now. There are the types of companies that are scrambling to figure out how do we fit AI into our strategy? How do we apply this to our existing product? And then companies that are, well, doing that while pushing AI forward. So the Microsofts, the OpenAIs, Googles. I'm seeing maybe some of the same kind of job titles you might expect for designers and kind of hybrid designers. But I'm wondering, are there other ones, like not just a like UX designer, UX researcher, but there are, I'm seeing AI strategists pop up at places like AWS, and what is that? How are companies and departments that are pushing AI forward, how are they structured, and what should we look for if we're trying to kind of participate in that?
Well, this is not a paid commercial. I would say that in my analysis right now, ID grads are very well situated with the following reason. I see why you use the three kind of design. You got the classical design, you got the design thinking, and you got the computational design. Design thinking is about application and fit to enterprises, and also culture in general. But it is not stuck in classical design dogma. It is much more accessible and commercially viable. And anything in this category that leans computational, not necessarily UX, all that stuff, being a strategist who is AI enabled and also understands the thing I described just now of the embeddings model and the completion model, and really not just, there's so many experts out there that just talk about it because they just used ChatGPT the other day and they're experts. Just saying. If you actually sit in the code, you run it, you touch it, you change it, and you're like, oh, it can do this. Oh, it can't do this. That is the exciting time right now. There is an opportunity for more human experts to have an opinion for how this can be used well. And I think ID is it's good stuff.
We have one question here. Can we get there? Oh, behind there.
Yeah.
So,
In full disclosure, I am a computer programmer now, much less a designer. So I spend all my time coding. So yeah.
Hi.
Yeah. Hello.
I'm curious about the faster these large language models advance, and we're getting closer to what people call AGI, right? So how designers can start to be part of the creation of AGI and actually make it safe and make it properly, because it's designing a human being, kind of parallel behavior. So it's designing a human. So at what point designers are going to be part of the creation of this AGI, and what is the pathway for designers to get into the industry or getting into that step of what it means creating AGI?
Yeah. I'm not a good person to answer that because I really don't eat all that stuff. I think there are some people who have a really strong opinion about things like AGI, et cetera. I'm not one of them. I'm more of a pragmatist. I grew up in a family with no education. They made tofu for a living. I made tofu with my hands all the time as a kid. I somehow was able to leave Chinatown because of education. And I've just been curious about this technology and what it can do for more people. These questions about what it does to change society and I think a lot of the science fiction movies sort of create this kind of feeling. I'm not in that world, so I regret that I can't really respond to that kind of question. I'm less in there. I'm more really in, what do we do with it? I'm curious how to use it. and how to use it really as a tool.
I'm going to close out the session.
Can I get this person in purple here? He had that moment that I had recently where I lost the microphone. You sure? If you don't mind. I was there. I was going to ask a question. Yeah.
So we're seeing all of this rise since the large language models came about, when we were all sitting at home during COVID. Service delivery was everything, and everybody was too busy hiring more UX designers, right?
Yeah.
And today we see the new darling of the industry is anything AI, right? But as a designer, I can't help but wonder how natural the whole paradigm of interacting with machine via prompt is.
Yeah.
You know?
Okay.
And like, what does it mean to go away from this retrofitting and go to an AI first design world?
What is really cool for those people who are defining their career right now is that there are a lot of unknown unknowns, and there are unknowns in the category that you're describing too. A lot of unknown unknowns. By sitting and really having the privilege of it to sit with you for a few hours, I didn't have to pay for that. That was great. I've been so struck by how making is what design does. And you can either make good things or make bad things. But making is the proof. What is that phrase? A prototype is worth 1,000 meetings. And to your point, designers are really good at making that prototype. That's the only way it's going to be resolved. But I ask to try to stay away from the eddy pool of the delusion of talking to something, because it's quite powerful. 1966, it's been warned.
Great. Thank you, John. Thanks, everybody. I'm going to close out the session, and I'm going to quote something that John references in his presentation and his book. You cite Josh Clark, who argues that, just like Mies van Rohe's generation saw steel and glass as the material of design, you are arguing, and Josh Clark is arguing, that AI may be the material of design right now. And I think you were just describing that if you don't have the craft of molding AI to you and to do the stuff that you want to do, you may be left behind.
Well, you're hallucinating.
You're hallucinating, to use an AI term. So thank you so much, everybody. Thanks for everything. Thanks to John.
Thank you. All right.
I do want to thank a few people before we step out. I want to thank Lauren Pacheco and Philip Bahar for bringing the Chicago Humanities to Illinois Tech. I want to thank all the deans at Illinois Tech who supported this. And I encourage all of you who have not been to the Institute of Design to go and check out the Institute of Design. It's just a hop over. You can't miss it. It's a white building with an inflatable second floor. So go in and check out the Institute of Design. We have an 85-year exhibition there. So thank you, everybody. Have a great evening, and we look forward to seeing you back again. Thank you.